Hey, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Think Suburbia, the podcast of the Suburban Virginia Republican Coalition. I'm Jill Cook, and in a moment, you'll meet Mary Campbell, my co-host. We want to welcome you to this edition. It's been a while since we've done a podcast, and we're very excited to talk to our 2022 congressional candidates and hear about all their paths to victory in November. So without further ado, Mary, would you introduce our guest?
Karina, it is so nice to have you with us today. You are running in the 8th Congressional District, which, as you know, can be quite a challenging district. Can you tell us a little bit about the demographics and the challenges that you see ahead for you?
Sure. And thank you so much, Jill and Mary, for having me on here today. It's very much a pleasure to be with you both. So first of all, I want to talk about location of the 8th district, because with the redistricting, a lot of people don't know which district they now fall into. So the 8th district is inclusive of all Arlington County, City of Alexandria, Falls Church City, and parts of Fairfax County, which are McLean, Langley, and it goes all the way down to North Springfield and Lorton. The demographics, they have changed significantly over the last 10 years that I've lived here. So we're now almost at 48% immigrant and minority. So the district no longer looks like the incumbent Don Beyer, which is fantastic, because in a moment I will get into that and why that's very important for us. And the challenges, I think, are twofold. So the first being the challenges that the people in the district are facing. And these are the challenges that I hear from constituents when I'm out in the community, which are the cost of living, crime, and education. The second is the challenges of the election itself. So historically, we know it's a Democratic district. However, we have seen trends that we see those concerns that I just identified. They don't care whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, or independent. These concerns are felt by everybody in the district. And just like high gas prices don't care whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, neither do I. And my platform is about addressing these concerns from a common sense perspective without engaging in polarizing politics.
Excellent. That is something we could use a lot, that attitude a lot more of, no more polarization. Anyway, getting into your opponent, he's been in office for 7 years and not much has improved for the constituents, as we were just saying. He seems to be quite indifferent to the needs of the residents. You've been out there talking to them. You're hearing what they care about. Doesn't seem to be what he cares about. So was this a motivating factor in your decision to run?
It was definitely part of the motivating factor in my decision to run. However, I did live the American dream. And so I came here with absolutely nothing, not speaking the language, and now I'm a congressional nominee. So because of that, and the policies that have been supported by the Biden administration and Don Beyer, I saw that dream slipping away. And seeing the cost of living, inflation hitting American and immigrants' parents, and families, I've seen a broken down education system. And my opponent has turned over the education system to the teachers union, which I find absolutely appalling. And frankly, I have seen some horrific rhetoric from both sides of the aisle when it comes to immigration and what we do with legal immigrants and what we do with illegal immigrants. And it's quite disappointing, because a lot of these people who come here legally, they just want to experience the American dream. And the people who come here illegally, well, what do we do with them? We prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law, but we also give those who want to be part of this country a clear pathway to citizenship. And they have to go through the right channels in order to be part of our society. So to me, it's a combination of both failed policies and having my personal journey in living the American dream and wanting to preserve that dream for all of Northern Virginians.
Karina, you are really an impressive candidate. You've been through a lot in your life, coming to this country as a legal immigrant. Can you tell us how your background might help you with such issues as national security, foreign policy, and immigration?
So, as I've alluded in my previous answers, I have lived the American dream. I came to this country when I was 8 years old with my single mother and my elderly grandparents. We didn't speak English. We lived in low-income housing, survived on food stamps, lived in Baltimore City. I attended the Baltimore public school system. And I remember very vividly my first day of school. My classmates around me all stood up unanimously and began to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. And even though I didn't understand the word they were saying, I knew that it was something that moved me inside and it was powerful. And so when I turned 18, I became an American by choice. I was sworn in. I recited the most meaningful Pledge of Allegiance of my life and knew just how fortunate I was to have that opportunity that many around the world can only dream of. And so, yes, after I put myself through college in 3 years while working in the financial industry, I then switched gears and switched careers to enter the world of national defense and intelligence. And in order to actually have a seat at the table, I had to go back to school and earn a master's degree in engineering from Johns Hopkins so I can prove to my male colleagues who were all engineers, that I actually knew what was going on and can be part of the conversations. So my background and my upbringing obviously shaped a lot of my policy positions. And looking at national security, for example, I'm fluent in Russian. And I know that the biggest threats right now facing this country are Russia, North Korea, and China. I've led delegations in 6 different continents, dozens of countries. I've spoken to people all around the world. And for me, it's about understanding both external and internal threats that face our nation. And so I've sat in more classified briefings than Don Beyer has. I understand that we need to get back to being a global leader on the world stage. And we do that through a strong military. I'm also an immigrant and I came here legally. So going through a very lengthy process to get here. So I think that immigration is a big part of our national security and we need to protect that. We need to make sure that the people that are coming here illegally, as I said, get prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And we also need a clear path to citizenship for those who come here legally. We need to teach them the English language. We need to educate them. We need to help them get a job, pay their taxes, and contribute back into our society. So my background and my upbringing definitely shaped my policies, especially when we're talking about inflation. I have lived in socialist Ukraine. I have stood in the bread lines with rations with my grandmother when the price of bread in the morning was 100 rubles and in the afternoon tripled in price and no one could afford it. And so I've seen what real socialism looks like. So I actually don't appreciate when any politician on either side of the aisle is trying to lecture me about inflation and socialism, because I've lived it personally. And I'm happy to share my experiences when I'm in Congress with my new colleagues.
I hope you get that chance, because I love that. I mean, you are so well prepared with everything that you've experienced. It's like a candidate perfectly situated for your location as well. So, and you did mention, going back a little to your education. So on that topic, you're a product of a public school system and a private university. You put yourself through college and you've got some impressive degrees, as we know. So those experiences, you've taught a little bit about it, but how do they influence you in what you might do on a federal level now to maintain the excellence, or bring back the excellence in the school system? And how do we combat the progressive ideology that has infiltrated almost every level of our education system?
That's an excellent question. And so for me, it's not necessarily about the left ideology that's hurting our children right now. It's a breakdown in civility. It's a breakdown in the family unit. It's a breakdown in our culture. And somehow we made it okay for adults to think that they can share their weekend experiences with our children as if they're friends. And so it doesn't matter what your sexual orientation is. Our children do not need to know what you do on the weekends and what you do in your personal life, period. So I remember as a child when I would go to the grocery store and I would see my teachers and I would be like, oh my goodness, you're in real life. How is that possible? But the conversation, the exchange there was very much a teacher-student interaction. Hello, Karina. Hello, Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so. And that was it. We didn't talk about anything else. So our children should be learning basic skills that they need to go through life. They need to learn math. They need to learn science. They need to learn history. They need to learn how to read and write. They do not need to know anything else, especially at a young age. So for me, it's kids should be taught how to think, not what to think. So with respect to teaching, it's not the far right, it's not the far left, it's teaching basic skills. It's preparing our children for the future. And that's why you go to school. That's why we send our children to school. And so also my education path is not for everybody. Yes, I have an advanced degree. And yes, I went to a 4-year university, but that doesn't mean that everyone else needs to be doing the same thing. I support school choice and I support parents' rights to transparency in what happens in the hallways and what is being taught in the classroom. And on the subject of parents and their rights, they are the ones that know what's best for their children. So if college is not the right path for them, that's okay. Trade schools are a great option. Vocational trainings are a great option. We need to have more of these skill sets in our country. And it's high paying quality jobs. So we need to break away from that stigma that everyone needs to go to a 4-year college and really encourage students and children to start looking at other career paths and making those career paths available in the school system so that children can pursue them. And also, while we're at it, my opponent has, in the recent Inflation Reduction Act, voted to have 87,000 new IRS agents. So as I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking, why do we need 87,000 new IRS agents going after small businesses when we have defenseless, precious children who are unsafe in schools? And why could we not reroute that funding, the taxpayer dollars, to something that's more of a priority right now and keep our children safe in schools by providing 87,000 police officers or resource officers, as they call them. So to me, that's absolutely mind-boggling and just shows how bad the governance is from my opponent and how taxpayers deserve more. They deserve to have their children protected. They don't need additional IRS agents. We need additional police officers in our schools, in our communities to keep us safe.
Karina, that is such a perfect lead in to my next question. As you know, crime here in Northern Virginia and throughout the U.S. is accelerating because of these rogue prosecutors who are throwing out cases, raising the limit that someone can steal without being prosecuted. The list goes on. Our country is hurting. What do you think that you could do as a federal legislator to help the United States get back on the right track?
Well, first of all, I actually agree with what my opponent, Don Beyer, said. He said that the slogan "defund the police" is a stupid slogan, and I absolutely agree with him. It's so stupid, but somehow my opponent believes that he can also take money from organizations who support defunding of police. And I will not take money from those organizations. So while I agree with him that the slogan is stupid, I think it's hypocritical to say that and then also take the money from those who support that slogan or who support the defunding of the police. So on a federal level, I will push and support legislation that makes assaulting a police officer and violent attacks on police officers much more punishable under the law. And I will also support money to the states that they allocate to their local police departments to increase community awareness and increase advertisements for hiring new officers, because we have a huge deficit in police officers right now. And we're feeling that in Arlington County, where every single day I open the Arlington Now newsletter and there's a robbery, there's a murder, there's a shooting, there's a carjacking, you name it. It is absolutely unacceptable. We live in Northern Virginia. We do not live in Baltimore City, where I've seen how crime impacts communities and people. And so I am actually very humbled to announce that I've been endorsed by the Police Benevolent Association of Virginia. And I spent over an hour and a half with them talking about the deficits in recruitment, talking about the police shortages, talking about how people don't want to get into that line of work because they don't feel appreciated. They don't feel like they're being protected. They don't feel that they're able to do their job efficiently without the law actually punishing them for doing their jobs. So I want to ensure that they also have the benefits that they're looking forward to. Police officers, just like teachers, just like firefighters and first responders, do not make a lot of money. They go into these fields because they truly feel a passion and a calling for public service. And so we need to reward those people by providing them the resources, the protection, the training, and the benefits that they need in order to keep us all safe.
That is something we all want. And I love that. Congratulations on the endorsement. That is wonderful. I'm sure you'll get more on the same line. So thank you for that. And thank you for those wonderful plans. We're almost at the end of our time here. So we always ask our guests if there's anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to cover, you know, on a policy point or a campaign point, or in your spare time when you're not campaigning, what do you like to do? Any hobbies or interests? Or
I wish I had time for all my hobbies and interests. I love yoga. I love walking. I love to do all the exciting things that campaign life, unfortunately, doesn't give you an option, or, you know, you can sporadically sprinkle it in here and there. But look, at the end of the day, I'm a common sense candidate pushing common sense solutions. I want to bring opportunity, prosperity, and a better tomorrow for all Northern Virginians, not just the political elite. My opponent is very much insulated and is extremely wealthy and does not look like me, does not feel inflation like I do, and does not really represent the views of the average person and the average voter in this community. Mm-hmm. He recently bragged on social media that the number one concern that he hears from constituents is airplane noise. Must be really nice to have no other issues than worrying about airplane noise being a concern. So when I'm out in the community talking to the Asians, to the Latinos, to the Ethiopians, to the Greeks, to the Black communities, et cetera, that make up almost 50% of our district, airplane noise has never come up. What has come up is education, crime, high cost of living. Those are issues that I'm focusing on, not airplane noise. And all of that said, I'm working for you because I am you. I put my own gas in my car. I pay my rent. I resigned from my job and I'm living off my savings, and which is now dwindling in this Biden buyer economy. So I would encourage everyone to go to my website, Karina Lipsman, or KarinaForCongress.com. Follow me on social media, sign up, volunteer, to door knock, to get out in the community, to phone bank. And we're 100% volunteers. We're grassroots campaign. And if you're looking for a paycheck, this is not the right campaign for you. But if you actually want to implement real change and work towards common sense legislation, then I really encourage you to check me out and contact our team. And thank you so much again for having me today.
Karina, thank you so much for being with us today. You are such an impressive candidate, and we really wish you the very best. Our listeners probably would like to know how they can learn more about you, maybe a website, and how they can donate to your campaign.
Absolutely. It's karinaforcongress.com. And we're very happy to talk to anyone that wants to talk to us.
Great. And there's a link on that website to a donation page for,
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Excellent. Well, thanks everybody for joining us for this edition of Think Suburbia, the podcast of the Suburban Virginia Republican Coalition. Thanks to my co-host, Mary Campbell, and our wonderful guest, Karina Lipsman. We are so looking forward to joining her at her victory parties the day after the election in November. If you want to see any of our other podcasts, we have done many, and they're in the bank in our YouTube channel or on our website. Go to the SUVGOP.com website. Use the drop-down menu to click on podcasts, and you'll see our wonderful selection of past episodes. And good luck to you, Karina, and everybody get out there and vote in November. Thank you.
Thank you.